and it's most exciting because there's nothing to do with private equity, or very little. So we hope you enjoy it. But really, I think we're here today because all of us here are connected by a common thread. All of us have businesses in Tai Seng. Now, Tai Seng, for those who know what I'm talking about, would know Tai Seng. For those who don't, who have absolutely no idea what Tai Seng is. So let me just introduce Tai Seng, right? So Tai Seng is a little splotch of land in central Singapore, thereabouts. As Josh said just now, it used to be the central hub for gangsters. And when I mean gangsters, these are the gangsters who fight in the street, who beat each other up with a baseball bat at random hours of the day, right? Fortunately, that's no longer the case. Instead, Tai Seng has become the central hub for another type of gangster, which is your local businesses, right? So today we're going to be joined, I'm joined by three very special people here. Well, Carl is the CEO of Headmill, who, for those people who are in Singapore, would know him more for the content platform that he runs, SGAG. Muicha is at GM at Huaki Paper Products. Again, for those who are Singaporean and slightly older, will recognize that the exercise books that the company used to produce. And Xue Chiang here, he used to be, who is with me, had a really interesting project where we tried to cultural map the whole area of Tai Seng, the SMEs, the companies that are there. So I'm going to just start by maybe asking Xue Chiang to talk a bit about Tai Seng and its history and the project that he's done.
Okay, thanks Aaron. Okay, so I'm Xue Chiang and I'm with Aaron. We're from the Nut Graph. We're a content agency located at Tai Seng. So I think we started our operations in Tai Seng about 2 to 3 years ago. And we were very interested in this industrial estate located in the central to east part because we realized that the visible icons in Tai Seng was Bread Talk. For those of you who've been there, Bread Talk, Charles and Keith, Kong Guan, and Yu Yan Sang. And these brands, these Singapore brands are like one of the original pioneers in bringing the Singapore product overseas, or the Singapore brand overseas. So these were the visible icons. But when we started our operation in Tai Seng, we started to realize that there were all these little other small businesses, from SGAG, from Huaki Paper Products, to even local clothing brands like Grey Studio. So we started to had this idea for an Instagram project where we were inspired by Humans of New York, where they did a cultural map of the people, the diversity in New York City. So we decided to start an Instagram project called See Me Tai Seng. So for those of you who are on Instagram, you can check out SIMITAISENG. So for those of you who don't know, See Me Tai Seng is actually Singlish. See Me is like what's, or like what's up. So what's up in Tai Seng. So we started this really local Instagram project where we would find out who are the entrepreneurs who are located in Tai Seng. Because we realized that Tai Seng is not really a very sexy neighborhood. When we talk about businesses in Singapore, we know that in One North, right, there is all your digital startups. In Jurong, you know, you have all your manufacturing industries. But Tai Seng sort of seems it has slipped away from the radar. So we started this project to map out all the different businesses. And interestingly, in the age of Google right now, when I search Tai Seng, there's really very little information about Tai Seng. So we realized that there was really this value in documenting all these businesses. Yeah, we were also noticing that there was a lot of change going on. So as we dug deeper into Tai Seng, we found out that, like what Aaron has mentioned, that in the past it used to be an area where it was rife with gangs, robberies. When we interviewed former residents, the residents would say that in the past, taxis wouldn't even go into Tai Seng because it was very dangerous. The taxi drivers didn't want to risk their life. And so we sort of saw this transformation that in the past, people saw Tai Seng as a town of gangsters. Right now, with all these Singapore brands, small SMEs, up-and-coming SMEs, we realized that there was this very interesting synergy going on in the area. So that was what started us looking into this area, Tai Seng.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's interesting also because one of the things that most economies around the world today are grappling with is the SMEs, right, or the small and medium enterprises, the small and medium businesses. And as you know, as we all know, small and medium businesses are at the heart of every economy. They provide 60 to 90% of the jobs. They contribute majority of the economic value, but they're also being challenged on several fronts. One is obviously technology. So there's a lot of talk, in the past 2 days, a lot of talk about how technology is disrupting, how technology is changing the way we do things, and likewise it applies to SMEs as well. But there are also many instances and evidence, lots of evidence that SMEs are just not adapting to technology quickly enough. And Rachel, maybe I can now pass it to you. Maybe you can just talk a bit about your company and how you're trying to adopt the technology and how difficult that has been. Tell me a bit about the history of Huaki.
Hi, my name is Muicha. I'm the GM of Huaki Paper Products. So basically this business was started by my grandmother 60 years ago. We started off manufacturing paper products, but right now we have expanded and evolved to do wholesale stationery in Singapore and around the region. I'm happy to be here as part of the gangs of Tai Seng, but I'm not a gangster. So basically we started off, we are a small traditional family business, and back in the days when in Singapore labor is really cheap, we could hire a bit more staff to manually produce products. But then these days, as you know, there's a manual labor crunch. In Singapore, labor cost is really high, and staff gets older and then they just retire, and these days we have changed into more of a trading company because we cannot afford to, and because in Singapore if we hire more people, we will not be able to keep up with the factories in say Malaysia or in China to produce more products at the same speed, because we don't have enough workers in Singapore to help us. So basically back in the days, lots of things are manually done. We had to keep up with the times, we have to move with the times and introduce technology. But then as a small traditional family with a legacy to hold on to, the older generation are a bit more reluctant to adapt to change, right? But then we have to if you want to survive. I guess in any business, sustainability is the key to, I guess, any business. You want to grow and sustain as long as possible. So we have to introduce, we have to computerize everything. Your inventory, you have to make sure that everything is in proper inventory system to go with the times, or else you would probably lose out to everyone else. You have to adapt.
I mean, even that's difficult, right? I mean, you're just telling us just now when we were having a conversation before this, that just thinking about the normal processes of running a company, whether or not they're underperforming staff, and you mentioned it's just difficult to even.
Yeah, it is very difficult, even because as a traditional, small family business, a lot of things are based on loyalty and emotions and feelings. So our staff has been working for us for decades, years, and even if they're underperforming, it's a bit difficult to let go of them because they've been with us for years.
Yeah.
So that's also one of the things, you have to still retain them, even though they are underperforming. That's the difficulty that I have to face, because my elders, they are not willing to let go of older staff, because they've been loyal to us for the past decades.
Right. Yeah, I mean, in looking at some of the companies here, apart from family businesses, there are also very new and exciting startups which have made their home in Tai Seng. Carl, I mean, you're one of them. You moved to Tai Seng 3 years ago? 3 years ago, more or less. Tell me about your company, your setup. How do you start?
Hi, my name is Carl. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Hetmo Media Group. So for those of you who live in Singapore or Malaysia, you might have seen some of our content on social media. We run platforms across 3 countries, Singapore, Malaysia, and Philippines, more commonly known as SGAG, MGAG, and PGAG. So in short, we make short, funny, viral content on social media. And we stumbled upon this business purely because of an opportunity we saw with the rise of social media and perhaps the decline of traditional media. We realized that, hey, you know, in Singapore, when we were in university, nobody was sort of consuming local content. Everybody was on YouTube, everybody was on Netflix, watching some foreign-made content. And there was a lot of strange things happening in our backyards in Singapore, which, again, in Singapore, everybody wants to work in finance or be a lawyer or a doctor, and nobody would be perhaps available to make fun of things. So we were pretty bored, and we started making funny things. And these funny videos and content pieces started to pick up traction. And it started to go viral. And because we're a small country, after doing it for a couple of months, we realized that we were reaching about 1 million Singaporeans every week without spending a single dollar on marketing. And the question then was, could we sort of do something more with a page that had so much traffic? Because we couldn't monetize it because it was purely a Facebook page. So we started gathering a lot of independent creators who were making their own stuff. And we would tell them that, hey, you know, we have this platform called SGAG. Would you want to join us and perhaps make something together? And so we started recruiting these people, and soon enough we were making more and more content. And we raised a small little round of financing to validate this hypothesis that we could sort of replicate the same success we had in Singapore with almost like a secret sauce to content creation by bringing it immediately across the causeway. And so that turned out pretty well, because within a year we were reaching about 4 or 5 million Malaysians through the same kind of content, short comedy content delivered through the mobile platforms. And so that has really allowed us to grow from a two-man co-founder team to about 80 of us in 3 countries now. And we saw, again, that investment in content because of just Netflix leading the way in investing in content. We were like, hey, you know, nobody here in this part of the world wants to make content. Let's start with comedy, right? So since then, we've launched live streaming platforms to allow our audiences to play trivia with us. We have a card game across 2 countries that brings that fun and experience to our young audiences through a card game that has sort of captured local audiences on a physical level. So we would want to engage our audiences through play as well. So we've built essentially an entertainment company, a media business built on social media through, you know, data, tech, and creativity.
You mentioned fundraising, and you mentioned it was a small amount. What is your approach to fundraising from a startup point of view? We hear a lot from the investors' point of view, but from a startup point of view, what is your take? I mean, I think one of the panelists just now said that his goal is to make sure that the company has enough money so that the founder or the co-founders can just concentrate on running the company. In your opinion, as we all saw this past week, you know, like Honest Bee, for instance, they expanded too fast, too quickly, and they ran out of cash too quickly. What is your approach? I mean, what's the
Right. So this is the second company that I've run in the startup space. So my first company, we raised funds, and that gave me a bit of context to how to do it. And I think when it came to this, it's a funny business, right? So when I went to some VC friends, investors, and they were like, dude, this is a funny business. It's not a unicorn business. And we were very clear about that from day one. We're not going to be a unicorn. We're not hyper growth. We're not going to be in 8 countries in 2 years, right? But I think we could be in 3 countries in 2 years, right? And I think it could take time, right? So we also saw, we took some time to do our groundwork. We went to the countries that had received funding in the media space, in the media sectors, and we talked to a lot of these founders firsthand. And a lot of them died over the years because they raised money with wrong partners too early, too soon. And because media is a space that even the big boys have no clue what's happening, that's why we see so much consolidation across the, you know, your Disneys to the Warners. Everybody's consolidating to fight Netflix as a juggernaut that's coming. Nobody really knows what's going to happen in the next 5 years. So I saw the demise of a lot of companies like Mashable and Mike as well that raised $50 over million, sold for something less than that. And that was exactly the thing we wanted to avoid. Raising money with no key goals in mind, chasing vanity metrics just to please the investors. And I think that's a formula for disaster. So for us, we were very, very careful. We wanted that float to allow us to regionalize without worrying about local cash flows. So we took a little bit of seed money. And more importantly, instead of going for people that had no clue about the industry, we looked for very strategic partners that were able to open doors. And again, that is banking off an industry or a region where a phone call from somebody within the right industry with the right connections would be able to accelerate things 10 times faster, right? Open many, many doors that otherwise would not be open. So that was the angle, really, not to overstretch ourselves by taking too much money, and also to take smart money, right, to really help us to accelerate our growth efforts.
So over the past couple of days, I think technology has been a common theme, main focus for panelists. Whenever you talk about whether it's AI, whether it's transforming healthcare, that's something that is on the mind of most investors, companies these days. Unfortunately for SMEs, maybe Rachel, you can take a stab at this. It's not so easy, right? I mean, we talked a bit about transforming, modernizing your operations, but has your company thought maybe instead of doing trading, would you go into e-commerce, for instance? Is that something that you would focus on?
I think for businesses in Singapore, I can speak for the S, maybe not for the M, but for us, definitely technology, we have to move on, because we are a B2B business model, not so much of a B2C business model, but then with technology being so advanced these days, you get very smart consumers. Consumers can come up to us, even with minimal advertising, they can find us, because technology is just so available, and Google, you can just Google and you find us. So, and also with, e-commerce, because these days with consumer behavioral, they like efficiency, they like convenience. People don't like to go to the shops these days. Amazon, Taobao, everything. So, I guess e-commerce is in our industry. E-commerce is pretty much the way we do it these days, but then as my business, we have not really gone into e-commerce because we are more of a B2B customers, and then as we have very traditional mindset. We don't like to undercut our customers. So that is also a kind of a struggle with SMEs or S, because I guess it's the mindset of small businesses in Singapore, but then with the government giving us so much grants, I guess 60% of the SME companies in Singapore don't know about the loans and the grants that the government actually give us. So these are the grants that we can actually tap on to help the business grow and advance with the technology, but then a lot of us are not using them, and I guess it's a lot about the mindset of such companies.
Xue Chiang, talking about legacy, of some of the Singapore brands that are out there, correct me if I'm wrong, there is still a lot of affection for brands like Kong Guan, your old biscuits, and you've like Yuan Sang, for instance, right? These are all legacy brands, 60 years old. In your experience, the younger generation, is there still this nostalgia feeling, and do you think that there's value there in unlocking the affection for Singapore brands?
Yeah, definitely. I feel that in Singapore, I think there's very few brands that we are really proud of, and I think surprisingly they all sort of congregate in the Tai Seng area, as I mentioned earlier. So yeah, the affection for, I guess, nostalgia, like the Kong Guan factory. So the Kong Guan actually has its original factory in Tai Seng area, and right now they have also sort of converted the building they sort of conserved the old factory, the facade, and yet they sort of redesigned it. Yeah, so I think there's this nostalgia for the Singapore brands, like Kong Guan, for example, the biscuits that we all had, like it's a memory that we all had in school, for example. And I think the brands, Yuan Sang and Bread Talk and Charles and Keith as well, like they are also sort of the new generation up-and-coming brands, yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, which is that these are old brands, they've been around a long time, but your second and third generation members of the family are taking over the business, right? You've spoken to several of them, and you see that there's a real push to transform the way they do things, to repackage the brands to different segments.
Yeah, definitely. So for Yu and Seng, I think we all know that Richard Yu and his family started it. And surprisingly, when we started to document all these businesses, we realized that there's a lot of young people in these businesses. And they are in marketing, they're in business development. And when we interview them and we start to pick their minds, we realize that they do bring in fresh energy into an HO legacy, something like what Muiche is doing for Huaki paper products as well. So for Yu and Seng, I believe they started with ginseng products, right? But I think they are going into using traditional Chinese medicine in bars, like like creating their own cocktail, for example. Yeah. So we do see this change coming along.
So in a way, they're trying to unlock the business for the consumer of the future, for the millennials, the 20, 30-somethings.
Yeah.
And that's something that maybe I can ask how, what is the secret sauce to unlocking the millennial consumer? Is there like a certain template or formula? How do you know what's trendy, what's not?
Well, I think our entire business was built on millennials, and we spent a lot of time with large corporates talking about this and helping them to reach our audiences. I think the main difference was really, or is really, we exist, especially from a content perspective, from a media perspective, we exist in a time where people are able to watch anything and almost everything on demand without the option of a linear experience. So growing up, you watch TV, right? And to watch TV, you have to watch the TVCs that come with it. You don't have a choice. So that funds the TV channel to fill your favorite show, right? But today, you would be able to watch anything you want on demand on your phone without having to wait for 8 p.m. or prime time. And that fundamental experience, I think, is shaped into everything that we do, right? Everything needs to be on demand, almost instantaneous. Things change really quickly. For example, when we saw the rise of the introduction of Instagram stories as a feature on Instagram to fight Snapchat, we had, by that time, we had one of the largest Snapchat accounts in Singapore. And when that feature was released, we logged in, put up a couple of stories up, and we saw just everybody drop off Snapchat within the next 48 hours in Singapore. And that was crazy because, again, so fickle. It's so fickle, it's so quick, things change so quickly, and within 6 months, we were seeing this huge demand from advertisers for Instagram stories, right? And again, I think it goes back to the fact that things move so quickly, trends move so quickly, most things are on demand, it's no longer a linear experience, people have choice, you can ad block, you can choose not to watch certain things. So we have this metric internally that when you create a piece of content, within the first 5 seconds, if it's not appealing, people are going to drop off. 5 seconds is all you have as a shot with a potential viewer before they lose interest or move on, right? And that's something that's, I think, fundamentally very different from how media was constructed in all its traditional formats before the rise of digital generation. And I think to capture the audiences today, it's a science more than anything else to really look at data, analyze it, make sense of platforms, and be platform specific when it comes to creating content. And I think that is really how you can potentially capture audiences today.
So there's a lot of unfunny business going behind the funny business.
Absolutely.
Data science.
A whole ton. So the whole idea was, again, I came from a tech startup background, and when I saw what my co-founder was doing, which was to make a lot of funny content that was reaching millions of people in the region, the idea was, could I put a software engineer next to a data scientist, next to a script writer and a video director, and a business person all together in one room, and I took reference from what Stanford was doing at D School with the design thinking methodology, which was to mix things up together, put different types of people in a room, and that would essentially fuel creativity. And for us to create comedy content, to create content, we do about 30 pieces in a single month. of long video, of video content, and that's so rapid, so quick. If somebody said something on social media, we would be making a video about it maybe within the next couple of hours, right? And so there's a lot of science and optimizing of data behind the scenes, essentially to pick what do we talk about, when should we talk about it, how should we talk about it, why would people want to watch it, and essentially the whole creative process is no longer left to a guy sitting on a lily pad waiting for inspiration, like the Mad Men series where they're smoking cigars, drinking whiskey, and boom, I got the big idea. Today, we believe it's a science. It's a methodology. It's a science that you can optimize, that you can refine through these things coming together.
So just to tap your brain a little bit more, what's the next big thing? I mean, what's trending now? I mean, we saw Facebook is in a lot of trouble, right? Is there a next generation platform that's coming up? Is live streaming the next big thing?
I think live streaming has been around for a while. I mean, just look at the valuations that we see in the top 10 global companies that are not publicly traded yet. I mean, TikTok comes up as one of the top, right? And who would have saw that coming? Young people shooting 15-second videos of themselves dancing or making funny videos of funny emotions with filters. I don't think that was something that you could plan for, unlike the previous panel where we talk about deep tech, right? Science. One of the highest valued companies today is a 15-second video company that has millions of people, young people on it. And I think live streaming and its adoption of it essentially democratizes the power and autonomy of media, right? Instead of waiting for a big media company to tell you something or make something that's entertaining or tell you something, everybody is making their own stuff, right? Through their own phones that can be delivered to an audience instantaneously. And I think that is a very, very powerful movement which will continue to stay, right? And I think that is something that we are also looking deep into. And that's why we launched a live streaming for a game that we're playing with our audiences. So live trivia. I used to watch a lot of Wheel of Fortune growing up, watching them, and that's all I could do, just watch. But today we run a live streaming show where all our audience members can come online and play with us every Sunday night at 9:30 p.m., win cash money from the comforts of your toilet seat. And that is, I think, changing a lot of traditional models of entertainment.
Okay, so I'm just going to throw this out to the panel. And we talk about transformation quite a bit, both of Tai Seng as well as SMEs, right? And we know the challenges ahead. We know that companies will need to transform themselves. And maybe I'll start with Pang, because you have spoken to many companies. Do you think, especially in this economy where you have your Alibabas of the world, your tech titans who are absolutely dominating the industry, scale matters, financing matters. Can your SMEs of today, the ones that you spoke to, how optimistic are they when you speak to them that they will survive and they will thrive and they will grow in the next 5-10 years? Or are they even thinking about it?
I don't think I can speak on their behalf, but I think they seem optimistic that change is sort of like the constant, I guess, right? And that with the young generation coming in, they are able to inject new elements into their businesses. From just now we mentioned about Sang having all these new products that target a millennial audience, to maybe Huaki Paper as well, which is one of the company that we documented in the project, where it was a family business and Malaysia is coming in to sort of change the way certain things have been done. So yeah, I think there's a lot of change and it's an optimistic energy.
Well, Rachel, where do you see yourself in 5-10 years?
I think for the, I don't know about 10 years, but 5 years, I mean, to able to keep up with, because in our industry it's very competitive. For us, it's more of a price competition rather than anything else, because consumers are getting, their consumer behavior is that in these days they just want cheap and good. But then in order to be an edge against everyone else, against your competitors, I guess for us it's really about your service and then how you reach out to everyone else. I guess it's your social media, because social media is really powerful these days. And obviously, for us, we try to use service, and then in order to win everyone else. That's how we run our business, basically. But then obviously you need to move and change with technology, because as you say, service, it comes with efficiency or delivery, the quality of the products and everything else. That is very important to us. Yeah.
So in other words, you're saying that regardless of the technological change, you believe that service, the human touch, still remains paramount?
Yes, it is very important, because technology, everyone has to move with the technology. It is, regardless of times, we have to move. But then how do you have an edge against everyone else? In Singapore, it's about the human touch and the efficiency.
What about Carl? I mean, do you see your company evolving at an even faster rate? You just spoke about how you have to get them within 5 seconds, and you are doing all kinds of things like not just expanding overseas, but even going offline with card games. You know, is this the nature of the business that you're in, and how do you see yourself changing?
I think for us, we think of ourselves as a tech company, even though a lot of our people are creatives by nature. I think when we started the company, it was founded with, based on some of the work that I had done previously in a tech startup, and with that mindset, I think the idea is always exploring new technologies that can essentially help us scale faster, grow faster, launch new services. And I think that's really at the core of how we see the world. Instead of what new show can we produce, we think a lot about how can we deliver this, how can we make this show better, how can I know this show will work, right? And how can we make this show stream faster on our platforms, or stuff like that. So I think a lot of it is essentially with a tech layer, with a tech mindset, to help us scale into the next 5 years. I think a lot of changes will be coming again within the media industry, and I think those that have disrupted might be disrupted again, because it just simply moves so fast. So I think keeping on our toes with creators at the core, but leveraging on tech is something that we constantly think about and talk about.
Okay. I'm going to open up the floor to questions to the floor. Anybody have any questions? Any of our panelists, family businesses? No? No? Okay. Maybe I'll throw in one more question and then we can wrap it up. Okay, so since we are in a private equity conference, I will maybe ask Carl, I mean, since you have the most experience dealing with private equity financing, how important is, I mean, we talked a bit just now, maybe I'll ask you to elaborate on this point. How important is financing to your expansion plans? I mean, do you see as the core that you're chasing, that you need to have that kind of money before you can scale, or do you prefer of maybe taking the more measured approach where you want to do something first before you get the money?
I think it really depends on the nature of your product. Again, if you're a SaaS product or if you're a pure tech company, you would need that financing, as the previous panel mentioned, to really give you a runway of 12 to 18 months to validate different stages of your growth and hit those metrics. And I think based on those, the right industry as well, I think that might make sense. For us, we were very clear that we didn't want to raise money, in fact, not until we were at a stage where we had proven that our model is able to convince the biggest blue chip clients to spend with us and keep coming back, because that would give us a better sort of negotiating position at the fundraising table. And again, having raised a small seed round, we are holding off raising our Series A/B because, again, I think media is evolving and there's so much consolidation happening that we want to make sure that we are ready before we take on the next check. There have been a lot of offers on the table from different parties around the region, but I think, again, we take a very conservative approach as to we need to have a clearer vision of what we see in the next couple of years and really hit those milestones internally before we go deeper into the next expansion. But I think it's a hand-in-hand partnership with the finance world, where we need investors, again, who also can value add to our journey, smart money, that's what they call it, to really help us see things from their perspectives as well, and build this company together. And I think that relationship is one that we constantly talk about, where we don't want to be in a position where we took something because we were so desperate, and we were left chasing metrics that we don't believe in and having disagreements at board level, which would only serve to kill a company. So I think that relationship and finding that synergy between founder and investor is key, and that takes, it's almost like dating. So it takes time before you sort of get into bed together.
Okay, didn't expect that, but okay. But I mean, for sure, what I think the panel has clearly demonstrated is that the challenge is real, the struggle is real for many of the SMEs. And while we talk about technology as a simple solution, adopting it is clearly not, right? Which, you know, as you pointed out, and even for a tech company called like yourself, you constantly have to keep evolving, have to keep changing and keep adapting to the new environment. You know, and I can hope that in the next 5-10 years, more SMEs come on board and find a way to assimilate technology into their operations. Otherwise, this is a very valuable source of jobs and growth in any economy, not just in Singapore. I think will be severely challenged. Our last call for questions. No? Okay, then I hope you can join me in thanking the panel. Thank you very much.